This video will have spoilers for God of War 1, since Ghost of Sparta is set in between God of Wars 1 and 2. So you're not playing God of War 1? Well, you should, although I know they're now also remaking the God of War trilogy. But you have been warned, you cool with that? Alright, let's go. God of War Ghost of Sparta, released in November 2010, only several months after God of War 3, which was set to be the series finale at the time, and be developed by Ready at Dawn, who also developed Chains of Olympus. Being the second and, well, last God of War game on PSP, this is also the one I've usually seen get the most praise. It's the spin-off titles for God of War, especially people constantly praising the story and what it's going for, although I feel like some of the hype around it is a bit exaggerated. You see what I mean? The main premise for this entry is that after having become the god of war, Kratos is still haunted by visions of his past. In this case, seeing visions of his brother. He ends up going to find his mother Callisto, who ends up informing him that actually his brother was never killed many years ago when they were kids, and has actually been imprisoned by Thanatos his entire time, with the gods preventing his mom from telling him this information. And now that Kratos knows that his brother is still alive, he makes his pursuit in order to go rescue his brother Deimos from Thanatos. But throughout the story, you have the other gods, mostly Athena, telling Kratos that he doesn't understand what he's doing and that this was done for a reason, and that his pursuit is not a good idea, with Kratos shutting down every other god who pretty much tries to tell him, hey Kratos, don't do that. Please don't do it. Aside from that, it is also nice getting to see locales like Sparta with people praising Kratos as the new god of war and praising him as a god, and also seeing people who are still loyal to Ares and don't accept Kratos as the new god of war. But just most of the game's story just has the guys telling Kratos, you don't understand what you're doing, please stop, and Kratos is ignoring them. There's not really much in the way of the middle of this game when it comes to how the story unfolds. You have the inciting incident and then the big finale, and the finale is good, although just like Chains of Olympus, it goes by too fast. It doesn't take full advantage of what this game has to uniquely offer with its writing. Once again, they should have done more, because otherwise it feels like too quick of a payoff. You also have Kratos constantly destroying parts of Atlantis, everything going on in his pursuit, but there's only really like one comment from Poseidon being mad at Kratos, basically swearing vengeance on him one day. But aside from that, no gods are really trying to stop Kratos. Instead, it's more the people who serve the gods being more in Kratos' way, on top of the monsters trying to kill him. Overall, when it comes to the story of God of War Ghost of Sparta, it's just more or less the fact that this isn't fully lived up to the potential it really had, because the finale goes by so fast. And aside from really Thanatos and his daughter, there's not really many cases of the gods trying to actively, physically interfere with Kratos. It's more just fighting the monsters being usually unleashed by, let's say, people who worship Poseidon or people who worship Ares, and that's it. So there's just not much for Kratos to really interact with people. Even when it comes to the other figures who Kratos does meet along the way, they don't really add much to what's going on. So the story is fine. It's just the fact that I wish they'd done more when it came to Kratos and Deimos, especially Deimos, since this is the whole premise of the game, and it feels like not much is done with the character. Now for the gameplay, being a combo-based action game, where this time around, you do have some new options with the fact that Kratos can just run up and grab enemies for a beatdown or throw them, which is a bit weird since he still has the regular throw, but I feel like it does work out, especially as it allows you to just completely finish off a single enemy, or anyone else around tends to not be a good idea since they'll just smack you and stop you. They also changed where the magical items now work, where now it's based on push one of the D-pads and that's it, which is a bit awkward how Chains of Olympus did it, which I felt had a more comfortable way of handling how the magic items could be used quickly during combat, but it's not anything too major, just with the fact that the magic items this time around I don't really find the most useful. While you do have the Blades of Athena, which are still very good to use and have more abilities since now the bug configuration used for Chains of Olympus's magic items are now used for more combos. With the Blades of Athena, you do also later in the game get Kratos' Shield and Spear, with this being another moveset in order to use, but while there are points where you need to use it because it's also a projectile, it's just don't really care about too much. And even if you really do like this playstyle for Kratos, the game will keep swapping him back to the Blades of Athena since there is still his main weapon. On top of the fact that there's a little bit of a delay swapping between the weapons, like it's less than a second, but it's still enough to get you smacked. And also the fact that if you really do like these weapons, you're not allowed to use them in the game's finale, so don't get too attached to them since the Blades of Athena are still gonna be the main thing you have to use for the bulk of the game. The enemies this time around feel way more aggressive than previous God of War games, and that's mainly due to the fact that so many enemies have unblockable grabs and can just pull them out on an instant on Kratos to immediately just keep beating them down. Yeah, it's easy to get the enemies off of you, but so many of them can just keep doing it, and it's gonna suck if it's a big enemy that puts you into a corner so you can't even dodge out of the way. It just gets annoying very fast how many enemies will just immediately grab Kratos. They get this vengeance for the fact that Kratos has the beatdown mechanic, but now they can just keep beating down the Kratos. Also the fact that one of the new features is Theris Bane, where you're able to amplify the Blades of Athena with fire. I mean, the issue with this is the fact that while it is a cool thing, although so it's a bit awkward because you use one of the L button combos to do the push the combo button, then hold the R button or to use the flame because you can't hold both L and R or Kratos will just dodge out of the way, so that's a bit awkward. Is the fact there are some enemies that have special armor plating that require this ability in order to actually remove their armor, so it means a whole lot of waiting for you to actually hurt the enemy, or some enemies who you can never hurt regularly. Strangely enough, your magic items will still hurt them just fine, so I don't understand this restriction where you have to use this ability. And mind you, this ability recharges on its own, so it's not a big issue. It was one of those things of, why make enemies that you're only allowed to hurt with this specific ability? You also have this weird aspect where Kratos suffers from so much knockback and knockdown in this game. Like, it's just strangely easy for enemies to just keep smacking Kratos and knock him to the ground, which then takes him a few seconds to stand back up and everything. It just gets annoying. It's not a major issue, it's just annoying how easy it is for Kratos to just get ragdolled by enemies in this game. And there are several enemies in this game that also can't be launched in the air, thus limiting how much combo potential you actually have in this game with the stuff you have. Another weird change is the fact that this game is mostly combat. It's not really much in the way of puzzles or even real platforming segments. Most of the game is just doing a lot of combat, everything going on, so you better enjoy the combat. That's pretty much all you really have in this game, and the combat is satisfying, although the parries, I swear, have never been easier. It's so easy to just make bosses just not be able to hurt Kratos, but just over the fact, that's probably why it also have the unblockable grabs to make up for the fact that your parry is stupidly good in this game. Now for the game's text, which basically the same thing I said about Chains of Olympus. I like how big it is, and they do have their own unique font in order to make the letters really be easier to read when it comes to subtitles that can be toggled on and off at any time with the square button during the cutscenes, and the tutorials also have a little background window for the text to make them easier to read and understand for what they're trying to do with the controls. So it doesn't really have any issues when it comes to how the game's text is, and for a PSP title as well, it also makes sense the texts are big and in your face, everything going on, but it is a game that also did get ported to consoles with the PS3 collection, everything, so it makes sense to try to keep it big and readable, so I do like how they handle that. Overall, because God of War Ghosts of Sparta, it's basically the same to me as Chains of Olympus, so I don't get why this one gets rated so high, but Chains of Olympus is treated as one of the bottom barrel God of War games, because even when it comes to gameplay changes, it's more of a side grade than an actual real upgrade. And since they came out so soon from God of War 3, it's not able to actually take advantage of any improvements to the gameplay that God of War 3 introduced to the series, so it's basically just on par with Chains of Olympus, just if Chains of Olympus had way less puzzles and way less platforming, and was way more just focused on the action. While this being a story about Kratos' family that he didn't even know were still alive, and it's an interesting premise, I feel like the game could have done more with it, but I do like that we get moments of Kratos just seeing his people of Sparta and then praise them as the god of war, everything, and then juxtapose that with him destroying Atlantis and people going, "Oh gosh, the ghost of Sparta, run for your life." While the gameplay is still very enjoyable, it's more the fact that some of the enemies and the way they can knock back and just immediately grab Kratos just aren't the most interesting, and the game's finale really needed more to it to really sell what they were going for, which is, once again, a similar issue Chains of Olympus had. So just, there's a fact of cool idea, but you need to run a bit more with, not a lot more, don't pad out, just a bit more to really sell the idea, on top of the fact that if you like the Spirit Shield weapon, the finale just doesn't give you the option to even use it anymore, so there is that too. So like I said about God of War Ghost of Sparta, still a good game, just like Chains of Olympus, could have been a great game. So like I said about it, alrighty then, good day.